Shiyon Saji, welcome for this fireside chat. Shiyon is a second-year student from Maharivanias College. She's studying English literature. She is active in the digital world. She has her own YouTube channel with 500 subscribers, and is quite active on Instagram as well. So Shiyon, welcome. We are excited to have you on board. Yeah. We have Devi Nair, who is a corporate lawyer working with an MNC in Mumbai, and a mompreneur who started a small organic startup. She's the mother to a 10-year-old and a 1-year-old furry baby, who's always on the lookout to keep the little human away from his very many little gadgets. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Ash.
We have Sir Dadu, who has been teaching for more than 20 years at R.K. Sanatumbi Devi Vidyalaya in Pange, Imphal. He's also a parent to 2 daughters who are reading in the 4th and 10th standard. Thank you, sir, for joining us today and being a part of this event. And lastly, we have Dr. Matri Hari, who holds a doctorate in applied management. She's a leadership behavioral coach, and all her programs are based on emotional intelligence, along with having a holistic approach towards mental health. And she's also into family counseling, applying cognitive behavioral therapy. She loves to read books, watch movies, traveling, and listening to music. Welcome, ma'am. So happy to have you on board as part of this conversation.
Thank you, Ash. Thank you very much.
Right. So let's begin with the conversation. The fireside chat today is on youngsters and digital distractions. Here, what we're trying to do is we've tried to get 4 people from different avenues, different experiences on board. And what we want to do is we want to understand different perspectives, challenges, positives, negatives, whatever it is, but your perspective, your experience on digital behavior of youngsters. So as a parent, you bring in, as an educator, as a counselor, as someone who is also someone who themselves is active on social media, as a young college student as well. So we're looking forward to hearing all of you coming together on this one platform, and hoping that all of us go back with slightly more richer in how we in understanding this digital world that people inhabit today a little better than we did before. So right, let me begin today. I would like to start with a very generic question to all of you, and I want to begin with, I just want to understand what have been your digital woes since the pandemic. So any one of you can begin, whoever wants to start. I wouldn't want to call out someone's name and put them on the spot.
I don't mind starting if no one is saying yes.
Yes.
Like I told you yesterday also when you did call me, it's not only woes. I see a lot of good things come in because of the lockdown and also the digital world. One of the biggest woes, if you tell me, for me personally, is that my son is just around 10. And since 8, he's been housebound, so we call it. He was really athletic before. We used to take him for tennis and all of those things, athletic training. Once we were in an apartment locked up for 2 years, obviously there's been a lot of change that we see in him physically. There's absolutely no desire even to go out now that the lockdown is, off. He still wants to. He is a complete couch potato with his Xbox or PSP, whatever, and his gadgets. I also see another thing is, you're completely shut off most of the time. You are not interacting with other children the way traditionally you interact. For example, he would say that Mama 6 to 7 is my Zoom call with my building friends. And for the life of us, we couldn't accept it in the beginning, but that was the only avenue that they could interact with. And talking while they are playing, connecting to a server and talking, etc. These are very new forms of communication that we have never seen, or I have never seen. I'm sure people in this panel are fairly younger to me, so they would have. And these are the forms of new communications they have, the new lingos that they have, because they've seen other kids from other countries playing with them, which we don't understand at all. Acronyms they have for everything. So these are things that, it's difficult to get over. And I keep telling him, I spend so much of money for your education. Please don't bring in such words that does not make any sense to anyone else but you guys. Yeah, that apart, the one good thing that I've seen is also the exposure that has brought in with the technology, with the new digital age. Like I said, exploring. He has friends in countries that we would never have gone to, or I've never spoken to people in these countries, and in the same age group, they share the same views. So it's really nice to see them broaden their horizon, understand new and new technologies. He talks about things that I know of right now because of the role that I play in an organization that I'm in, at equal ease as if he's also been part of the same world. So, and I keep thinking or rechecking on him, are you just 10? The kind of things that you know right now. So there are a lot of positives for a kid who's inquisitive to learn. Me, myself, I've opened up my business during the lockdown. I have never been on Instagram or never had a Facebook account because of the kind of education I had or the role that I play in my offices. But once I explored it, I come to understand there's a lot of good in this as well. Being an influencer, or, checking in with an influencer and getting new businesses like that. I never knew this whole world existed until lockdown. So I feel like there are two sides of it. Positive and negative. I see there needs to be a balance somewhere, and therefore I was intrigued by this digital your company, because I think that would be the balance I'm looking for, and I'm not a person who's against whatever is happening or the turn of events right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to pass on Sir Dadu, what have your digital woes been since the pandemic?
Okay, I agree with Madam Nair, because I don't worry much about my class, the 15-year-old girl, because she's quite into studies. But actually, my younger one, the 10-year-old, she's quite like Ma'am said. My daughter was also quite athletic, but due to that, lockdowns and on all that, she had to be locked inside, and she chose like reluctantly, but from her lessons she moved on to other things, just browsing and surfing, and then coming up with like strange things that we are not accustomed to. And sometimes what was kind of shocking to me as a teacher and as well as a parent was that she could always stay on mute and not actually be attentive to the teachers while teaching. And if I ask her, and I know because she's my daughter, that she's quite intelligent, and she would say, I know everything what the teacher is telling. But I didn't like that kind of a decorum, because as a teacher I thought somebody would be doing that to me as well. So those are the things. And like I think it's a common thing, like Ma'am Nair said. I'm actually really happy that she can handle that thing, but I am quite wary about what that could lead to if not properly guided. That's what I can think of right now. Thank you.
Shiyon, I would like to know from you, what have your digital woes been since the pandemic?
Yeah, sure. Actually, it was during the pandemic and after the coming in of Corona and the lockdown situation that I actually figured out that I could speak in front of a crowd. Because in my school times and everything, it was all, I studied in a convent school, and it was always, reserved for just a group of people to just come into the front and talk. And it was all, a biased situation right there. So it was after that, this pandemic situation and the corona, like it was during my 12th standard, the final 12th standard days, that we had to, get locked up inside the house. And so I started a conference called Live Speaks. I did a 2-week long conference. Like, that's not a conference. Yeah, you can call it a conference. So I just got up people from different walks of life, and I wanted them to share their experience with other people. First, it was about lockdown and corona and everything, how it can be fruitful and all. And then it became their life experiences. It was like riders were there, lady riders were there, and then politicians were there. And so many people, like RJ, one like a really good RJ from our Trivandrum area, and then, like, it was famous people, as well as even one day I could speak, and that's what I said. I could really work on my skills, speaking skills, and my anchoring skills, or anything that came in between, and everything. And even I started becoming kind of active on YouTube during these pandemic days, because I got locked up inside the house, and only thing that I could use was my laptop, my mobile phone, and my instruments that was inside the house. In every contact was cut down, everything was cut down. Dadu said, like, it was during the class hours that we used to, I would log on to Google Meet and everything on the laptop, and I would just keep it muted, and it would be there, and we would be calling our friends on video calls on the other phone. And that's something that we used to do, like, during this online class era. I never attended online classes. If any of my teachers would see this on YouTube, they would be like, okay, fine, then why did we give you attendance? Like, we'd only be present during the attendance time. And that's a joke part, okay? And so, like, in this pandemic era, it helped me a lot. To an extent, it helped me a lot to become myself, to figure out what my passion is, and to figure out what I could really do on the social media, and not to just sit and surf and just sit and waste time. But today morning also, I was actually wasting my time for almost 2.5 hours using my just Instagram reels, doing that. Like, yesterday we had a program in college, and just surfing about that and talking to friends about that. I was just literally wasting time, and I didn't do anything. I just ate my food and came here to just sit in front of the camera. And like, that is both other parts of it. Like, when you have a chance, you become dependent to something. When I really got a chance to be into the social media and into my phone, and my parents were not letting me, like, were not restricting me to an extent. So it was like, I got the license to be on phone throughout the day, 24/7. I could use it, and I just became kind of dependent to it to an extent. Because even now, when I just forgot to take my laptop, and I was like, I am trying to log on from my cousin's lap, and the most thing that is worrying me is that my mobile phone is now engaged, because I can't use it right now. I can't use my WhatsApp, I can use my Instagram. I'm just stuck. I had to look at the screen and sit. If it was on my laptop, I could just easily use my phone underneath when this conversation was going on right here. So that is what pandemic did to me. Before that, I was not really a person who was completely into my phone or anything. I used to be a person who was interested in physical contacts, as in, like, with friends. I was more comfortable in just calling them, doing a voice call other than WhatsApp call, and talking to them properly one-on-one, than using these like any of these online medias. But then it completely changed. It fully swapped. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shiyon. Dr. Maithree, what have your digital moves been since the pandemic?
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank Nidhi and Ash for this amazing discussion. I would like to thank all of you for this discussion, and I really loved listening to all of you. And Devi ma'am, thank you so much for talking something about age. You said we're all younger to you. Thank you very much. I need to acknowledge that. Thank you so much for that. Daduji, it was really, really nice listening to you. And I really appreciate, because openly, like you said, this is what the challenge that you're facing. And it takes courage to say that this is what I'm feeling right now. Because from a teacher perspective, from a teacher background, I can completely relate to what you're talking about. We'll see, what we can discuss on that. And Shiyon, I really appreciate you too, my sweetheart, for being very open and to say this is what I would have done if my phone is. I really appreciate that, right? When we talk about, I mean, let us see, like, if we can find few answers that for the questions that we have in mind, few whys and whats today, if possible, because that's what I have in mind. Because in my profession, I see clients who come with the same challenge that they face either with the children or themselves. Every day I have at least 3 or 4 people calling up for the same reason. So let's see if we can find few answers for for the whys and what questions that we have in mind. First of all, like, what actually makes this presence in social media, presence in the digital world, what actually it means, like the changes that, as you were asking to me, Ash, it's like on the positive side. Yes, I have learned, because I am dumb and technically I'm completely dumb. So this pandemic, I have learned to use Zoom, and that itself is a bigger achievement for me. So I'm not very active on any social media, I mean, any platform, but I think I should start doing that as well, because as Shiyon was mentioning, I'm a people's person. I call them, talk to them like what they want. So I'm very direct, But these days, like, WhatsApp is comfortable sometimes, yes. The negative side, a positive side, like we have learned how to use technology properly, and we have obliterated the boundaries. We don't have any boundaries now. I can talk to anybody. I can handle any program. I don't have to travel. Initially, the travel used to be a lot of planning we have to put in the traveling. If I have to go to Hyderabad or Delhi, or I have to plan a lot. Now these days it's nothing. I just have to wash, put on the paint, and then I have to sit. So it's easier from that perspective. The negatives, I would say, yes, as you all mentioned, is the addiction. The addiction has gone really very high. The people who were not able to define that line, clear line, draw that line between what is needed and what are needs and wants. And that is when I think we have a real conflict in understanding our own selves and also for others. And that is what the point of discussion is, I think. Right? So can I go on, or we'll have to wait for the next question?
No, it's fine.
Right.
You can, yeah.
I was telling, like, we will see if we can whether we will be able to find out the reasons why children are doing that, or why even grown-ups are doing that, or what can be done. From my humble perspective, I can share a few of the things that I observed the recent past. So what actually does this social media does to our brain is that I'm sure many of you would know that we have a reward system in our brain. We have a reward system which gives which secretes dopamine, a chemical that in our brain. So that is when somebody appreciates us, we become so joyful from inside, or something we achieve, like cleaning up a shelf, or getting a certificate, or getting appreciation from someone whom we love so much. All these things gives us a dopamine, and we love that feeling. We love that energy. That is exactly what social media is giving to the children and the grown-ups too. We get appreciated. So the art of appreciation, we are losing it in our real life. And that is what the major difference that I have noticed in the recent past. Like, we don't appreciate each other much from the bottom of our heart. And that is when a human nature searches for appreciation. I used to tell my people, if men and women are equal in expecting appreciation, for me, I'm a little above the line. If nobody appreciates me, I would stop breathing. So what I do is that if a day that nobody appreciates me, I stand in front of a mirror and say, you are awesome, you are superb. Like, I just tell to myself, because I just cannot live without it. And I need it. It is a need for all human beings. And for women, we need a little more than that. So it's a natural psychology. So I think we have to learn the art of appreciation. When we start appreciating people, the dopamine has been taken care of within the loved ones, then we wouldn't go in search of from the outside, get this, waiting to get this validation from everybody whom we meet. That is one of the major things that social media gives us. Everybody says likes, dislikes, like, I like you, this is awesome. We don't even check whether that is true or not. We just take it inside because it gives us dopamine, right? So that is one of the main things. Like, what happens is that it affects our reward system in our brain so much that we get excited to do more. That kind of motivation that gives us to do more. That is one of the positive sides of social media, I would say. Number two, lot of people ask me, like, my children are playing video games all the time. That is one of the major questions that I come across. How do I stop the video games, or how do I stop doing these reels, or, like, how do I do that? But looking on the positive side, let me stay with the Shiyon on this. Like, Shiyon, I'll take it as my sweetheart. So I'll stay with her on this. Like, all the children, per se, like, who are the kids are going to watch this? Like, the one of the greatest thing that I would advise, that, it is good to play video games or to do that reels or anything, is because it also influences the memory part of a brain. Because when they play games like, what do they call, MMOs? I'm sure you are all familiar with that term, multiplayer online games, So that helps the children to actually remember the challenges, remember the characters, and then they come up with a lot of response, a lot of stimuli. They come up with wonderful stimuli. So if this game or reels or shorts or whatever, if you notice, you will remember every time what mistake you do in one particular shot, and you tend to avoid that when you do go for a retake. So when you do this often, when you go for more takes, like 10 takes, 15 takes, automatically, subconsciously, you're learning how to be perfect. So you recognize your own negative, you recognize your own areas of improvement, and you keep yourself getting better, make yourself getting better. So that way, it's definitely a positive thing. That is what I would say when it comes to games or to media. But then the real challenge comes, where do we draw the line? Like, even though the reach is there, and then we are getting connected, we are sorting off all the boundaries, and we are reaching out globally to a lot of people whom we have never met also, as Devi ji was correctly mentioning. So all these positives are there, and memory power, rewarding system, kick of dopamine, everything is fine. But then the real challenge comes, where do we draw the line? How do I tell my child, or how do I tell myself, no, this is the time? Because I have seen grown-ups, especially us mothers, once when we finish off all a day, like, the night, like, we sit with our phone in YouTube or something, and then we just keep watching, shopping online. It's all window shopping. We don't buy anything, but then we just keep doing that. And because we define fun with that, like, it's my time. The definition for my time ends with digital media. Like, this is my time, so I want to watch something, or I want to buy something, I want to check on something. So this my time definition has to change. Right. I think these are the questions that all of us have. These are the challenges that all of us face. So we'll come back to answers. Whatever the answer that I have, that I'll share with you. So before that, I would like to hear from you all also. What are your opinions about this? My understanding about this digital media.
Thank you so much. So from the way I understand from all of you, while we are confined to our couch or our house or our devices, at the same time, those devices they are helping us reach out to people from different geographies, or they've become the way for us to express ourselves as finding our voice. There are also challenges. There are good and bad, like in everything. And where that line is, where is that that we also need to be, there also needs to be some sort of guidance that needs to be in place. So how do we balance that? So that is what I think from all four of you is what I can come to. Now, as someone who is the most, for someone who is the most easiest on this medium, Shiyon, as the youngest and the one for whom this is the easiest way to be in, Shiyon, how much do you agree with the statement that social media or your digital presence is a tool of self-expression? Like today, it's not, your media is not only a way to communicate, but it's a way to express, self-express. How much do you agree with that statement?
I kind of agree completely to that statement, because I myself started being a musician. I myself started expressing myself, and people started knowing that I can sing through social media, because it is confined to just 30 or 40 people when I go stand in front of a class and sing. And even then, only 10 or 20 will be listening to that, because in a class there are different discussions going on and everything happening. And for people like amateurs like me, like not the other people who are really great and have a proper fan base, it's like just for amateurs and starting off artists or anybody like me, social media is a really big platform where we can express ourselves. And at the same time, I would say social media face is fake. The face that we show on social media is always fake, because when a person is going, the next moment if he or she is going to suicide, he won't be putting such a sad story on Instagram or on WhatsApp. Maybe like this is just about 50% of the people. The other 50% like their feelings are completely expressed on social media. There are some people that I personally know who were in completely depressed situations due to these pandemic and these locked up conditions, and they were putting up really happy stories and everything that we would really give a laugh out loud, but then they were completely in depressed situations taking medications. And that is one side. And the other side is that like I would say, if you would express your own views and if you would express your own emotions or anything, that can cause that also can cause harms. Okay, for everything there are two sides. That also can cause harm, because there are some people who are just there to judge you, who are just there to know what it feels like and know what it is all about happening with you, and to just judge you, and then just not make any good use to you, but then just to judge and sit there and just to kind of opinionate about you. And on the other side, people can help you. If it's your friend, okay, one day my WhatsApp DP is missing, my friend would obviously come and ask me, what's the problem with you? Because that is the era right now. It's not about being sad or not about being in one corner of the class. It is just like your WhatsApp DP is missing and there's something wrong with you. There is something wrong. That is how people, kind of judge in this era. So I would say social media platforms are 50-50. Like it's the best way of expressing yourself and it's the worst way of expressing yourself. Both.
Right. Devi ma'am, so as a parent, you say that your child now he's confined, he doesn't go outside and he plays a lot more on games or devices. How do you regulate his usage of these devices, and what sort of resistance do you face when you try to do that?
Okay. So I'm not the right parent benchmark, whilst my biggest fear is, someone turning up like Shiyon, like, not listening to classes, etc. That is my biggest fear. Not because, for Shiyon, I'm sure she's smart enough, she's old enough, mature enough. You can study in the last, 15 minutes before an exam and crack it. Whereas that's not the point of a 10-year-old who is in the formative years of their learning, and who really needs that kind of parent-teacher or child-teacher involvement in just understanding basics. And me and my husband are very hands-off parents in that matter. We do not sit with our child at all. As a rule, to study, he has to do his own thing. Whilst during the pandemic, I did everything to take him off gadgets, and I'm fully engaged in office, and also I have my own business going on. My husband is also completely engaged, but we try to do whatever we can. So, introducing board games like, Scrabble or Monopoly and things like that, which then ultimately we understood that means we also have to spend that much time with him, which we also did not have, or we did not have interest in on a regular basis, right? So that was one thing where we lacked, that kind of interest in doing that. Second, obviously, we, like I said, I have a furry who's 1 year old. During the lockdown, I also did a lot of rescue, adoption kind of work. So at any point of time in my apartment, we could have at least one dog, and that was also to engage him. So he was always happy when, someone new came up, to give them baths, or to be completely engaged with that, the dog that we had at that point of time, cry when the dog left us. So it was like a series of things. But I liked it because there was an emotion that came out of him, which otherwise we wouldn't have gotten or understood, right? So the nurturing aspect, I found like, was very exciting for me to understand that, okay, a child who was completely, I would say, selfish, like all children are right now, of how we were also. I don't for 1 minute say that we weren't selfish when we were children, but all those kind of aspects of nurturing came to him when we had all these instances. So I did try my best to take him out, but every time I suggested, okay, let's switch off your device and then let's do something, it was always effective. He was always happy to do that, mostly like a baking or in any of those things. But that also meant, like I said, spending my time or my me time or, things like that. So I'm completely guilty of giving him the gadgets at most times to take him away from what I wanted to do myself, being a very, selfish person that I am. I also believe we have only one life and we need to do as much as we can in that one life that we have. So that ways I outsource my parental time or whatever time to the Xbox or to his phone without the SIM, obviously, so that he can view YouTube or whatever, or chat with his friends or whatever. So yes, I've always, but one thing, like I said, again, I want to say is when you create distractions and we are also a part of it, they're happy to join. It's not that, they're completely averse to spending time with you or with someone away from the social digital atmosphere. When they don't have anything else is when they get completely attracted, addicted to that. Exactly. Because he used to read books before, a lot of them. And now also sometimes he does say, Mama, can I have this book? Or, like that. Or if I am on Insta, with my products, he always comes and asks me, Mama, is there any hate yet? So I was like, what is hate, Om? So he keeps telling me, if there's no hate, then your products are doing fine. So it's not like he's on Insta or he has any clue of what it is, although he checks out on mine and he says, if you put my photo, can you tell me how many likes I got? So things like that. So he's attuned to it, although we've not introduced him to any of these. A lot of his friends have YouTube channels, so he keeps telling us that, can I also have? And that's also sort of mimicking, right? Because I remember when he was 3 or 4, when he used to watch YouTube while having food or whatever, which was, again, a wrong thing to do. I know, but yeah, that's what I used to do and guilty of all that. But he used to see Ryan's toy review. That was a YouTube hit thing that used to happen then, where a Chinese kid in the US had a lot of toys and he used to review each toy in that particular day. And if I look back in my gallery and see all the videos I'd recorded of him when he was 4, he used to say, please subscribe to my video, or, this is how it works. This has 4 wheels. Whilst we were very happy with the kind of language he picked up or whatever he would say at that point of time, when I look back now, he was just mimicking what he was watching. And normally children mimic their parents, but in the lack of that atmosphere that he was getting at home, because we were not there physically for him, that's when he, did all this. And I know where the pain points are. I know how to fix it also in the literal physical sense, but I can't. I don't have that time. I don't have that patience. I don't have the energy. And therefore, I just want a balance, on the digital space. But like I said, I don't think I'm able to give that kind of time to take him out physically and, give him that kind of engagement that we can, because it's so enriching to be online and see all those things and in Polaroid than have it in real life. It's seemingly not possible, and I can't even compete with that. So I just leave it. I just give that to him, the pleasure of being online all the time. We do monitor, to your question, we do monitor his screen time. So apart from his classes, which is like 3.5 hours of screen time, then he has to take a break of 3 hours. That's what we've told him to do. And he does that, where he does his homework or whatever, which is completely offline, which is on his books and stuff. But by the time it hits 6 o'clock in the evening to around 10 o'clock, it's a straight 4 hours of whatever he wants to do online. And whatever means we have child control locks and all those kind of filters and locks, etc. that, he can't view content that he's not supposed to. But yeah, it is a 4 hour of complete drama if we take out that remote or that console or anything. So yeah, we can see a lot of things that we don't wish to see. And when I have guests, I just tell them, do whatever you want in the next room because it's easy. I don't want to face the drama, and it's just not me, it's my friends as well. So whenever we go out or whatever, I just hand over the phone. That's the easiest thing for me to do, is hand over my phone. You're quiet, you're mute, you're satisfied, engaged, leave me alone also to do my thing. So yeah.
Right. So Dadu, you interact and engage with students on a very regular basis, and you have been for a very long time. So have you noticed or have you experienced an increase in communication gap between teachers and students, wherein now they rely, like they said, so now they rely on a digital community for different, be it through conversations, be it through likes, or be it through interest, versus coming to teachers? Have you seen a growth in a rise in communication gap?
Yes, it's pretty obvious, I think, because even while we were doing the online classes, most of them were absent. And after inquiries, we found that, most of them were going, they were not really interested because I think they believe that they have more or better avenues through the internet to find their solutions. Whereas we think that as teachers, what we give them is the things they need. Whereas if they trying to find, your own answers to the various questions is good, but I don't know. I think they will stray because when exams happen, we know the results. So sometimes that happens, and we met them recently during the exams, and most of them could not even recognize us because we were just going through this medium. And the sad thing about some of the students was that we were never we never met face to face because it started before the admissions. So we were never really and that suddenly we could not get that kind of a physical thing that we share with our with our teachers, so with our students. And so sometimes we felt like it was a lack of respect, but I thought, no, that's not. But like that, there's been if I tell them something serious, that they would rather go to the internet for the solutions, and they would kind of make me lose my self-esteem or something like that. And I would just want to add something to my, Dr. Maitree's point, where she was talking about the reward system and the dopamine one. I agree with that, but I also believe that the bad side about that thing is that the low self-esteem that one develops when not gratified, that's really depressing for some students, some people, I think, even adults. And I don't know how that can ever be solved until they get professional help, something. But these people, I mean, I'm not saying in a degrading way, but the people who have these kind of problems will never, agree that they have that problem. And one more thing about the students, they face some kind of a bullying thing. And on WhatsApp as well as on Facebook, and we have our school system to deal with that. But some of them, don't, they don't even come into our attention because, like I said earlier, we have this gap of communication. If everything was like, if there was physical classes, it'd be really easy to solve those problems. But now we have to make do with this online thing. And I hope the COVID goes away so that we can come back to our normal selves with the added advantage of the online, tools that we have. Yeah, that's it.
Sir, thank you. So, Dr. Maithree, if I had to ask you, like a lot of counselors that I've seen, I've spoken to, they've said that the number of cases or inquiries have gone up with counselors. So, if I had to ask you, what is that one concern which really worries you about young people and their digital behavior? If you were to drill it down to that one concern, what would that be?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. And also thank you for Devi ma'am and Daduji and Shiyon ji for explaining your own opinions, expressing your own opinions. The most important thing that worries me or concerns me is that all the time, everybody who's overly present on social media, looking for validation from everybody and comparing themselves with the other person and deciding like, am I not better than them, or they are much better than them. That comparison and comparison is also okay to an extent, I can take it, but then degrading themselves and putting their own value to a very low level is what really pains me. And the other one is peer pressure, as Devi ji was also talking, Dadu ji was also talking, like, the peer pressure, like, he is doing, she is doing, look at what and all she has. She has an Xbox 4, she has that, she has the PS 4, like, I don't have it. So that kind of, the huge gap between the reality and the imaginary world that they see. And that is what really concerns me, how to bring that self-confidence back in the children, like, or the grown-ups or whoever it is who are on the actively present on social media, how to tell them that you are enough, you are wonderful. Don't just always compare yourself to others and don't degrade yourself. Don't go demotivate yourself from thinking that using all the filters on all the photographs every time. Like I have seen recently, I was talking to Nidhi also. I saw, like, I met a patient who has an addiction for selfies, and she takes a minimum 1,000 photographs for one display picture. 1,000. And on that final one that she chooses, she will use filters, and she looks completely different when you see in person. This is maybe this is not the level of addiction for everybody, but then sadly we are reaching there, we are going there, right? We have a strong disconnect between the real life and the imaginary or the fake life that we look at outside. And I think that is when we need to really bring in, tell them, like, see, listen, you are awesome, you are absolutely wonderful, and this is enough. You can learn new things, but then you don't have to place yourself in someone else's and then compare yourself with others. And getting that validation, longing for that validation, is what the most important thing that we need to address for the people who have got addicted. Like as Dadu sir was asking, like, how if it, dopamine or the appreciation level increases a bit, or if it's not really needed, then what happens? And that is when dopamine addiction happens. Like psychologically, we say if you are watching something, or if you are getting something from more than 17 minutes to 20 minutes, or from a person from a 20th person whom what you hear, like, you're awesome, you're good, it is not real. The moment when you spend more than 20 minutes on any particular thing wherein your objective is to get appreciation, it is called addiction. So, or if you're watching screen, any type of screen or anything, game or shows or anything, if you're exceeding 20 to 22 minutes, it is an addiction. And if you're doing this often, it is a strong addiction. If my child, or if my patient, or if one of my friends was spending 3 to 4 hours every day just on Insta or YouTube or FB, they are addicted. They've got dopamine addiction. If you allow them to be like this, their hands will tremble, and they wouldn't. The biggest thing that they do is they disconnect themselves from every social connection they have. They would not talk to anybody, and that is the main reason, sir, that when we are teaching, remember, like, I don't know how many of you remember, our schools used to have huge playgrounds. How much we played. Physically, we went and played, how much we played, how much time we played. And ask any of the children, we have to take them to one place for them to play, like badminton, tennis, football. We have to take them to a specific place. For us, it was always available. right? And that's one of the main things what we miss. And then the respect level, Dadu sir was talking about, absolutely a difference. The definition for respect, the definition for relationship building is very different from what we had. See, I am in touch with my principal when I was in school, and if I see him anywhere, I just stand up. It's not fear, it's respect. I just cannot sit in front of him. I just cannot. Even if he says, Mike, you have grown up now, please sit, I cannot. It is not fear, it is love, it is respect towards him. But now the same methodology won't apply. If I'm not going to have my hands on Shiyon's shoulder, she will say, Jay, please, you stay at home. Right? Shiyon might say, Madam Ji, aap ghar pe bhi rahe, waitiye, please. No. So but then, I'm not telling you, Shiyon, like I'm just in general, I'm telling you, the representative, right? So the definition for love, respect.
That is actually true. To interrupt you, that is actually true, because even yesterday I was in my vice principal's room and I was just hugging her. I was standing there, I was hugging her.
Right. So we need that. So the level of exposure that what we had is completely different from the level of exposure that you have. The freedom level that you have, it is completely different. So I think I can never compare what I went through and what you people are going through, because I think I read somewhere like, we do not give future for our younger generation, but then we are borrowing their future from them. So we should always remember we borrow their future. So we need to be more responsible when we talk to them. So I would always recommend, when you want to work with children or students, we have to get into their own world to make them understand from where we come from. Like otherwise the children are not going to get an idea of what we went through. I mean, this is my humble opinion, right? We need to get into their world and to understand what actually gives you happiness when you play games. What actually gives you happiness when you upload a video? What does that do? So psychologically, we also say one more very important thing when we ask questions to our children or especially to our teens. We at home, because my clients, when they come, they say they could be directors of a company, they could be project managers, senior directors, but then they say, Mike, I can handle any client, but my 16-year-old, I don't understand. I just don't understand, Sometimes they go lock up in their room and then they won't come for us. I don't understand what they're doing, right? So we need to understand that their world is different, and unless we enter into their world, step into their world and to see what actually gives them happiness, we are not going to do that. How is this possible? The most important thing is that we do. Of course, we're all very busy, like Devi ji said, like she's also engaged with a lot of things. It is my life, everything. But what we can do is that we can bring in a quality, dedicated time that we spend with the children or with our adults at home. And every Friday evening, dinner, no gadgets. Instead of telling no gadgets, no for every time, where the children cannot process that no. It is very difficult for the people who are very creative. If you tell them no, they cannot process that no, because the left part of the brain is working. They cannot listen to no. That doesn't understand negative commands. So they won't understand, like, why are you stopping me from doing this? That is what this is giving me happiness. What is your problem? That is what they will ask. So instead of that, define, be specific. We can tell them, like, Friday dinner, it's family time, no gadgets, 2 hours, 8 to 10. Or every Tuesday and Thursday, we will not have gadgets from 6 to 8. We'll all sit as family time. So even if you have a 24-hour schedule for the rest of the week, if you are able to spend that quality time of 2 hours or 1 hour with your entire family, I think that is where we will start making a difference in understanding the correct usage of media, social media, the digital screening, right? And number 2 is that how we can change this gaming addiction or video addiction or any kind of a social media addiction. What I do is that I tell them to convert that itself as a reward system. If you do something you will be able to play, right? It is kind of hijacking your emotional brain. But then we have to do that. It's a self-practice also we can do. We can also teach our children. We can also share this with our grown-ups at home, adults at home, teens at home, like converting whatever the addiction we are talking about, because for sure we will not be able to eradicate completely this. This one is going to stay with us for life. We cannot take this away from our life. So instead of blaming and instead of finding it difficult how to get rid of that, converting that itself as a reward system might help us a bit. That's what I think. No, it's my humble opinion. Right? I tell myself, okay, if I read one of my subjects for 3 hours, I'll watch a movie. Say, I love English movies, so I watch a movie for 1 hour and 25 minutes. So that everything goes with time for me. Like if I do this for 30 minutes, if I can do this for 10 minutes. Like instilling the consciousness of time, instilling the responsibility of time. Maybe that will help. If for the teachers, what I would share my humble opinion is that if you have a class of 40 minutes and what you can say every day, 5 minutes is students' time. You can come up with an innovative idea. You can present something because children, like unlike us, unlike me, I did not have any distraction. It is not my greatness that I was attentive in class because I did not have anything to do. Right now you have so many things at an iPad, tablet, phone, everything you have. I did not. Maybe if I also had those things, maybe I would have also gotten distracted very easily. You know, it's a human nature. Like attention, grabbing one's attention is the most difficult thing to do in our life. Next to giving a public speech. You know, number one fear of the entire world is giving a public speech. Number two is listening to them. So both are difficult. Both are very difficult. You know. So since the children have distractions, instead of we call them as distractions, we can convert them as a reward system. So every day in a session or every week, we'll have star of the week. That star of the week person will give a presentation on anything that he or she likes for 10 minutes a day. I mean, 10 minutes a session in a week. So that way, these are, the easiest way we can grab hold of their attention. Because poor them, we cannot blame them also. They have so many things to do and their brain is very hungry. Very hungry, you know. Like when we speak, we say, you might have noticed somebody who will speak very, slow pace, and then somebody will speak very fast. But then people, in psychology, we say we have the ability to process 800 words in a minute. It's an average. 100 above or low, like it's an average. So do we speak 800 words a minute? No. And it involves three things: audio, visual, and also the emotions that we attach to that, kinesthetic we call it as, right? So every conversation, every dialogue should have all these three components: audio component, visual component, and kinesthetic components. Like imagine if you have to decide every presentation. That is why movies are a super hit, games are super hit, because it has audio, it has complementing video effects for that, and kinesthetic, the words that they choose. You are special, you are a winner, congratulations, you are a winner. All these are subconscious thing affecting the people who are listening to that, pour into that. They want that more and more and more. So the real challenge is for the children, is for the teachers and the parents now, because we, as Devi rightly mentioned, I cannot compete with this. We could, if we can start, slowly inculcating all these things. So when I talk to him, it has to have all these components. Predominantly kinesthetic. We are emotional people in India, so predominantly emotional factor. But we should also bring in whatever we could do. Like when you present something, a gift or something, a small tiny thing is also enough. But when you give it, if you make them feel very special, this are little ways they can help us to get connected, oriented towards a family again. Hope I didn't take much of your time.
Sir, thank you, ma'am. So the one concern that you mentioned is the addiction bit, and of course you gave a lot of practical workable solutions and how to tackle it can be tackled. So yes, of course, that's very helpful. We're into the last 10 minutes of the conversation, so I thought I'll just notify all of you. I want to come back to Sir Dadu. You mentioned you mentioned the challenges that you have faced.
In between?
Yes, Shiyon.
I am actually a single parent child from my 8 years, and from almost from my 4th standard, I was having a mobile phone with me, my own mobile phone and my own SIM card and every facility that I had. And during my first 4th to almost 8th standard time, I had my parent with me most of the time. Kind of, I had a proper conversation with my parent, and also I had a pet at home, and I had my garden and everything. So the time of my social media usage of everything was kept a bit low. But then after that, I shifted to a different place. I started to kind of shrink in my world of like my home world, the family place. And it's like it was a lot less talking with my parents, and it was a lot less of like activities that I had to do. It was all media plus the school studies and everything that came into me. So when Devi ma'am told that she couldn't find time to spend with her child, I would say if you kind of blame, or if you kind of try to put this on the child because they are using too much of media, or they're getting too much addicted into chatting, and her child is just 10 years old. I'm talking about a little bit more like more aged children, because in the teenage and all, it is what emotional backing or emotional support is what every person would long for. So one timely hug, one timely talk is that everyone would need. And when you don't get that from your own household, or when you don't get that from your own parents or people that you completely own, you obviously search for other people, and you obviously search for other instances where you get that. Right now, I was actually just surfing on my Instagram because I had just posted a photo just 50 minutes back, and I was looking, okay, how many likes did I get? How many commented on that photo? Like as ma'am said, this dopamine thing is like, it is just too much affecting us just because we're not getting it from the right place. Today, the parents and everyone is so much busy that they don't have proper time to talk with their children or spend time with them. Okay, when things change, when the world changes, we can't just blame the youth or the young generation only because of what is happening to them. It is all because of the surroundings. During the before age, all of you here, ma'am, Devi ma'am, or Ash, or Daduji, or whoever it is, Maithree ma'am, or all of them had a different kind of family background. One of their parents might not be working, they might be at home, or they might had grandparents with them to talk to, or they did not have these media platforms where they could completely go in and talk or make another kind of a engagement for them. But then now we have the sources. We completely have the sources to entertain ourselves with. When we're not cared about by other people, we really find people who can care about us. It might be people, it might be apps, it might be anything. It's just not only the problem with the youth, or not only the problem with the children. Actually, it's a complete change. Just like the both of them said, they have to, like the parents or whoever this is watching, whoever this talk comes to, they have to understand that they have to just lean on to this proper, like the era of the youth or era of the children, and then only judge them or give instructions to them. That is something I felt I should say.
Thank you, Shiyon. This is very interesting points. I would come to Sir Dadu. Devi ma'am, of course, I'll come to you after that. And so, Sir Dadu, you like addiction is, of course, one major, the dopamine fix and the addiction bit that you've talked about. You, from an educator point of view, also mentioned bullying that is there. So, what are there any I would say any measures that school or institutions or teachers, any measures that have been taken, or is there any instance either of bullying or anything that has come up that you through that incident, and how the school or teachers tackled that? Could you mention that as well?
We had this harassment thing, online harassment, as well as bullying in classrooms, and then we had this inter-school kind of bullying. So we could not do much about the inter-school bullying thing, but we had to restrain our students, and to do that, we had to reach out to the parents. We have this squad in our school which looks into bullying, and what usually happens is that 2 or 3 people just gang up on one. Ours is a girls' school, so I mean we have to be really extra careful, because we have in the online platform there are so many stalkers or predators, whatever we can call them. So we have to be extra careful so as not to expose them, because somebody might just leak a link and then just come into our sometimes we have debates, and we have all these MUN and all that extracurricular activities, and something just pops in, and we were really shocked when we had this. We had this before the lockdown itself, but it became more difficult to solve
Sir,
during the lockdown.
yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
During the lockdown.
Yeah, may I ask you, do you have a school counselor, a school psychologist? Do you have anyone?
We have, but the problem was that during the lockdown, actually we consult counselor. We don't actually have a counselor. Okay. So sometimes when our results are announced, we call them, and then we talk it out with their parents. Okay. With the parents. Okay. That's how we function. Otherwise, we talk to the parents and kind of explain, because some of the parents are not actually really educated sometimes. So we need to make them aware that these things can lead to other things. Okay. So I think we can't do the policing work in school. So we just have to talk to the parents and tell them to restrain their children. That's all.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. May I know the age group of the children who got into this bullying? Is that 13 to 16?
Yeah. Class 9, like that. Class 9, 10, 11, 12, they don't really, I think they get bullied too, but they don't, we don't come to know about it.
The reason I asked about the age group is that, sir, because since when you pointed out it as a girls' school, I was little curious to know what will be the age group, because from that 13 to 16 or 17 is when what we call as a lot of biological changes happen in their body, and they won't be in a position to understand themselves what is happening inside of their body. So if possible, I would appreciate if you can get a doctor, gynecologist, or a pediatrician also is okay. If he or she is a gynecologist, if you can have a general awareness session for the children, maybe bullying might come down, because bullying mostly happens with emotional hurt and physical comparison. So maybe if you can bring in a gynecologist speaker to help them understand what happens in their body, why somebody is huge, why somebody is not huge, why somebody has hair, why somebody has facial hair. Like when you make them educated with that, I think the points that they put about the physical appearances and also the mental health and also the family backgrounds based on the family backgrounds might come down if you can bring in a guest speaker who's a gynecologist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Someone they can the changes in their body and mind. I think that might help. I think this, but I just thought, since you're very concerned, you're a very good teacher. So concerned, I thought I would just tell you this. Maybe that guest speaker, if you could help.
That's a very good idea, ma'am. I'll talk to the school authorities to arrange that as soon as possible, because I agree with you. Because I have 2 daughters and within that same group. So I feel that.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
So let me come to Devi ma'am now. So ma'am, some parents of late teenagers, they say that it's easier to manage screen habits better when children are under the age of 12 compared to as they grow older. So do you think at some point that behavior of healthy screen habit will have to be inculcated, and at what point do you feel a lot of onus is also being put on parents? So at what point do you think that technology companies who develop these technologies, that they are also made in such a way that we spend more screen time, we spend more time on apps? So at what sort of responsibility do these technology companies also have? Because there is only, like you said, there's only so much a parent can also manage in their day. So yeah.
Okay, so it's all economics, right? So I work for an investment bank. The more you invest, the more money I make. Why would I stop anything for you to stop investment?
That's a good one.
Why would I expect a technology company to put barriers on children? And, it's against their business, right? I wouldn't think they would. Although, yeah, maybe some socially very conscious companies might and most of it, I'm guessing, would be an eye wash more than anything. I would rely on the cybersecurity companies or, you know, people like that to put in some kind of barriers or filter what is going on. You know, me as a parent, I've consciously done this. I've not given my child a phone that is with a SIM card or anything. And I don't expect to give him that until and unless he's 15. So, and all of his friends, all of his classmates have phones. So he and another child, there are 2 kids in his entire class of 25 who does not have a phone. He calls me Monster Mama, M&M, because I don't do that. But I don't think there is a need to have a phone, you know, and all his WhatsApp groups, etc., are on my phone. So much so that the parents, the other parents sometimes check with me, can you check on the group if my child said something, or, you know, this and that, because they are all aware. And they don't want to do that. They do not want to take away the phone from their child because I've already given that. Now I've not given that, so I still, you know, I don't think that I'm in a position of power here, but I just feel it is unnecessary for a 10-year-old to have a phone. I never had a phone. But like I said, I don't want to put him in a stage where, you know, I'm monitoring you. This is there, this is, but I want to have a peace of my mind when I'm in office or doing my thing that, you know, he's also protected, or he's not going to stray so much. Him straying is not my concern, actually. People making him stray or, you know, doing something to a child which they're not supposed to is the only concern I have. So I want something that subconsciously will help me or put me at ease when I'm doing my thing. That's what I want from technology or digital. I don't want him not to do or explore, like you said. You know, he will be participating in hackathons. I'm sure. If I say that you should not go there, that's the first thing he'll do when I'm out of the room, right? He will check that site. I know that. So, you know, it's the same with us. We've experienced this. We were kids once as well. So I know that. But subconsciously, I also need to know that, you know, there are things that are there to protect them. And if there are things in the world, there seem to be a lot of technologies. Like I attended a digital citizen workshop sometime back, I think 6 months back, wherein they were talking about tools, and I find them highly effective. I use them all the time. And it's not like my son knows that they are there, but at least they're there, and it's a filter. They adjust, they let me know things. So I know what is happening to my child without them realizing it. It can come out as a spy or, you know, something that is tackling your freedom and all that. But I don't believe that a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old needs complete freedom. Yeah. So freedom, yes, but not the kind of freedom that they can or somebody else can take away, you know, the whole person away itself, or, you know, something more than what we need or what we require.
You know, what we always say is that in parenting, no, there is nothing called right parenting or wrong parenting. There's nothing like that. You know, there are certain rules that is applicable at my home, which will never be applicable at your place. And there are certain rules to be followed that is applicable to you and works for you will never work for me. So I would always prefer, no, if this parent is like that and that parent is like that. No, it is that particular parent's experiences, the pathways that they have taken in their life, the road, the journey that they have had. They want their children to, they want to protect their children from that. So every parent has a reason why they do for these children, and there is nothing right and nothing wrong. That is all I wanted to say. So every parent have their own understanding of their life, and every parent as a parent is always right. This is just like the Robert Frost poem, like, you know, The Road Not Taken, wherein always people decipher like that. Usually, you know, you're a literature student. I mean, you would know better than me. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Shiyon. So the meaning of that poem is misunderstood here. They always people decipher that it means that the road, if I had taken the other road, like if I had done that, but that's not the original meaning of the poem Robert Frost wrote. The original meaning is there was no other road. That was
absolutely right.
That was the idea. There was no other road. This is how it is meant to be, and this is how it will be. Yes, of course, you can change it. But anyway, the objective, the goal in your life will be wherever you reach, you'll be successful, you'll be more humane, you'll be more respectful, and that is all every parent wishes for. Right? Maybe the journey here and there, we do have some speed breakers, yes.
But ma'am, right and wrong parenting doesn't exist, but there is something called reverse parenting too. You agree to that, right?
Yeah, you can get into that, but no, that's always a hypothetical situation that we can always talk about. You can get into that, but then I know that the way when you travel along with them, what we can understand is that in general there's nothing called right or wrong. The impacts make the difference. What is the impact? What is the result that brings in? That makes all the difference. See, I really appreciate your mom, Shiyon, because you turned out to be a confident, very self-aware, self-motivated child. You're absolutely stunning, and so your parenting is right.
Thank you, Mom. I'm really happy to hear this.
Go on a blind, and that is what every mothers have a separate antenna, separate receptors, so they know what to do. And fathers do have, but then mothers, like, generally we talk so much, we're very expressive, so mothers reach out very well. But I've seen fathers also have that. So
I know it, because till my 8 years to 13 years I was with my father, and then 13 to 19 I was with my mother. So
yes. So it's like
both.
Motherhood, I wouldn't restrict only for women. That is also applicable for fathers. That being a mother is also in a father. So I would not say that. So, like, what I would like to say here is that yes, parenting is different. Rules are different from each home. Understandings are different from each home. The three things that, from my perspective, three things that every family could practice for a better space, better harmony at home is that one, spend quality time, plan the specific time. And when I say specific time, it's like exactly on every Saturday this has to happen. If you fix it up on a Saturday. And number two, like, be a part of the child, be a part of the child's future. Like, if she or he plays something, you be a part in that, you get inside there, so that the child doesn't have to restrict or hide and do things. Number three, developing a platform or developing a friendly environment where Deviji correctly mentioned, when a child has a problem, when a child somebody threatens, like digital media threaten, or some kind of a threaten, somebody threatens them, they should have the freedom to come and tell, the freedom and the trust to come and tell their parents, Mama, I did this thing wrong. I did it wrong, but I want you. And they should know that my parents will protect me no matter what I do. That kind of an environment, but if you could bring it, I think many of the bullies would stop. All the children who are a victim of these bullies will not have this proper freedom or proper environment at home where they could share their feelings. I would not blame the parents for not giving this. We do not know their journey. We cannot expect too much from a parent or too much from a teacher as well. So at any point, in India, what we have to learn is, what I think we have to learn is that it need not be necessary that only a mother or a father or a brother or a sister could be the child's best friend. It could be a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be a friend's mom, it could be anybody. So once when we instill this kind of point that you can have a soul relationship, you can have a person, go-to person, and you can find a go-to person in any of them, it is good to have that. That's why in the West, they have godmother, godfather relationship. Like, we don't practice it here, but I think that is one of the advantages of that. Like, the child always should have a go-to person, and that go-to person need not be family all the time. If we can bring it up and instill these few things in our children, I think we'll have a much, we can bring it more harmony at home. Thank you for your time.
Right. Thank you. I think on that note, it was really nice to hear all of you get your perspectives, and yes, Citizen Digital Foundation will continue to work in making the digital environment safe for everyone. And as Devi ma'am said, yes, we'll try to be your saviors if that's what you need. But thank you so much for taking the time out, for coming here, for sharing your perspectives, sharing your experiences. And we hope to continue to do this. And thank you so much. Thank you all of you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ash.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you, Ash. Thank you
so much, everybody.
Digital Foundation.